Hey, good morning. It's Cynthia from Believer's House. And I wanted to share with you out of Isaiah chapter 40 today. It's in my devotionals, and I wanted to share with you, there's such beautiful imagery in that chapter, and I wanted to share a few things with you. When you read through the chapter, there's just some specific verses that jumped out to me, and I loved from the very beginning, God himself is showing us that he wants to comfort those who are afflicted. He came for those, Jesus said that he came for those who are sick. He didn't come for the healthy, he came for those who needed help. And when we need help, he reaches out to us. And then verses 3 through 5, there's the message of the voice, right? There's the voice that's calling from the desert, which we know is a prophecy for John the Baptist. But it's such a beautiful imagery. Then it goes on through verses 6 through 8. It talks about the message that his word will stand forever. And 9 and 10, he invites us to come and behold him and see who he is. And 11, he talks to us about being our shepherd who leads us, who gathers us, who leads those with young with gentleness. It talks about the gentleness of who he is as being a loving shepherd. There's this great book. It's an older book, and it's a shepherd looks at the 23rd Psalms. And it's really looking at the animal husbandry of the 23rd Psalms. It's a little short paperback book. I would encourage you to get a copy of that and read it, because it gives you such a great picture of the care and the love of Jesus being our great shepherd and our good shepherd. And there's a difference, just because you have sheep, that makes you a shepherd, but that doesn't necessarily make you a good shepherd. And that book really draws the correlation between being a good shepherd and how a good shepherd cares for their sheep. And it's all, you can look back and we can see in the Word how Jesus does all those things for us. And we know that in this chapter, it talks about how God is the creator of all things. And I love, it talks about he's even above, he surpasses all idols. And I love in verse 16, it says, the nations are a drop in the bucket. So nations are nothing. And then it goes on. I love, there's a scripture here. Let me see if I can look to see where it's at. It talks about he looks and down from heaven and we're like grasshoppers. And it reminded me this morning about when the children of Israel were ready to go into the promised land. They said, the people, we're grasshoppers in their eyes, and kind of attaining to how big they were. And this is really pointing to the fact that God is so much bigger, that maybe those giants were bigger, but we know that Scripture says that they were quaking in their boots because they had heard about the God of Israel. And so in our eyes, we look around and we see other things that are bigger than us, but we don't behold him who looks at the nations, and he says that they are a drop in the bucket. And then in verse 13, it talks about who can fathom the Spirit of the Lord? Who can fathom who God is? There's another part in this chapter that talks about who can give God counsel, who can stand up with his wisdom, right? And I love that he's God over all of that, and he surpasses all idols, and that people that's where it is. It's around somewhere between 21 and 26. People are like grasshoppers. And I think about that, and when I think about the greatness of who God is and how big he is, and then I realize that overall he governs and he rules. He looks down and he sees this little grasshopper named Cynthia, and he loves me and he takes care of me, and that's such a comfort to me. It's such a beautiful picture. And we get our strength from him, and there's so much in this verse. And I know our chapter, at the end of this chapter, the verse, at the end of the chapter, the verses talk about they that wait upon the Lord. A few days ago we did a devotional about waiting, and how waiting is not doing anything. It's not we're just sitting around twiddling our thumbs. We're waiting in expectation because we know that the Lord is going to come through. And it's like waiting. It's like, a horse at the starting line, knowing that it's that the start is going to take off. And we know when we're waiting in hope and expectation for the Lord that he's going to come through on our side because he's good and that he takes care of us. But there's that great picture that says that they shall wait upon him, right? And that he'll renew our strength like the strength of an eagle. And such a beautiful picture. My husband has a picture that when he left a church in Virginia to move here to Pensacola, the television department, because Dean kind of designs television and video departments for churches, they gave him that big picture, and it's a beautiful picture of an eagle soaring over mountains, and it has that scripture from Isaiah 40, verse 31. So today I want to encourage you to behold him. That's what it says here in this chapter. Not only to behold him, but to wait upon him and to think about the wonderful vastness of who he is and his great glory, and that we're just little grasshoppers in comparison to him, and even nations are a drop in the bucket, but yet he cares for us and he leads us like a shepherd does sheep, and he does it with gentleness. He gathers them, he carries us, he leads us, especially those of us that are young or have young. So I hope today that you will ask the Lord to show himself to you in a greater way, that you will behold him